Hey everyone, welcome to the 404 show on this Friday, May 15th. This week is a very important week in television. The Upfronts were here in Manhattan. To join me today discussing the Upfronts, two very special people from TVGuide.com. First, across the table, Robyn Ross is here. Thank you for being here, Robyn Ross.
Thanks for having me again.
You are a special projects editor.
I am.
And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yes.
To my left, for the first time ever, Adam Bryant. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Executive editor. I want everyone to know we've got top profile people. This is the cream of the crop. This is the top of the cake.
Yes.
On the dessert that is TV Guide.
And I expect that to be reflected in my check for this appearance.
Don't worry about that. You just check in with the cashier on your way out, and that gets all sorted out.
Excellent.
So, Robyn, Adam, I don't pretend for a second I don't know anything about the way the television industry works,
Sure.
which is mostly true.
Sure.
What are upfronts? This was a very important week in Manhattan for television. Just what the hell went on?
Want to take it?
Sure. Basically, this week of the year is when all the networks bring all their advertisers to big theaters in the city, from Radio City Music Hall, Carnegie Hall, and they basically say, here's all the great new shows we're going to have for next year and why you should spend your advertising dollars on our network and not with those other guys. And so it's an antiquated process, sort of part of the pilot season where people sort of look at the new shows, but it's always the big coming out party for what those new shows is going to be. And over the years, our people like us sort of come at it from a press perspective because we get to see the new trailers and stuff as well. It helps us prepare editorially.
Right.
So it really started as an advertiser thing, but it's the first time we get to see and look at what they've spent the last 3 or 4 months working on at those networks and the shows that are going to be on in the fall or mid-season of next year. So it's a big exciting time because everybody wants to celebrate the new shows coming down the pipe.
It's so funny because you would think they'd want to separate those two things, right? And the same thing goes with what I cover with video games, right? You have E3, which is like a gigantic expo, but it's mostly for buyers, right?
Right.
But then press comes. So the same thing with
Same
upfronts.
thing.
You're like, oh, hey, here is press and here are prospective buyers. Those two people probably want to talk to each other, or maybe the buyers want to talk to the press. So how is there like a weird dichotomy at these things? How does that work?
I mean, we have so many press events through the year that I don't feel like we're getting robbed out. I mean, it's not catered toward the press at all. The press gets to come in and look, and they get to go to some of the parties and talk to some of the talent.
Right.
But it's really more of a dog and pony show for the advertisers, and they really are just trying to say, put your money up front with us because these are the best shows next year. You're going to want your money. You're going to want your ads on these shows, and so they really cater toward them. A lot of the parties that you see the advertisers also like taking pictures with the
Sure.
stars of the show. So it's really just sort of a fun, cool thing that they're just basically trying to lure those guys to open up their checkbooks.
Right.
And it's also a lot of the networks or all the networks present their numbers from, the year that just passed. And so they're either bragging or talking about, how they're going to do things better. And a lot of it is catered to their numbers and advertising and why they should spend and what worked and what didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a pissing contest, right?
Totally.
That's all it
And
is.
every single one of them at some point says, we're number one. And then you see the asterisk with like which demo they're
Yeah.
speaking
Right.
about specifically. And so everybody's number one this year.
And they all rip on each other as well.
Yeah. Jimmy
So
Kimmel.
that's kind of fun.
Yeah, like Jimmy Kimmel always opens up for ABC, and he does a whole sort of roast. He also roasts his own network and his own president, Paulie. But then they'll have heard, what happened at the other upfronts and already have, comments and make fun of the thing that NBC did the day before.
Yeah.
It's so funny how every freaking industry is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
For example, this year, Bob Greenblatt, who's the president or chairman of NBC, he brought out Dolly Parton. They're making a TV movie based on some of her songs from her life. And so she sang a song and then...
Because she's relevant.
Right. But maybe because Bob Greenblatt is like, I'm not going to have this opportunity again, he then brought out a piano and played piano with Dolly Parton. They sang I Will Always Love You out at Radio City Music Hall and got a standing ovation. So, even if he gets fired, if NBC totally
He'll
tanks,
always have that moment.
he'll be like, I got a standing ovation at Radio City Music Hall. I think he took advantage, and I think maybe it was a smart move.
A smart move in the long run when he gets tanked.
Yeah.
That is very strange.
But just to be fair, I don't think he's getting tanked anytime soon. And
Yeah.
he has really helped NBC. They're one of the ones that is number one again after being in last place forever. So they're doing okay in that respect. So, but it was quite a thing to see early Monday morning to kick off the week. Dolly Parton singing with a broadcast chairman.
That is so strange. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd look around and be like, is this for real? What's happening? So how many did you get to go to? Were you at any?
So I did a lot of the cable ones that the first one is going back to March, is like Nickelodeon, and I did ABC Family, and I did USA. So I did a lot of the cable stuff leading up to it. And then what they have are New Fronts, which you probably know about.
Right, that's the web stuff.
For digital. So I did a ton of New Fronts. And then when it came to broadcast, the only one I did was the CW, because CW is my jam, so I couldn't miss it.
Again with the freaking Vampire Diaries.
Come on.
All the time.
It's just...
Every day, all the time.
How do you feel about
this?
We'll
get back to that because...
Wait, I want to talk to Adam real quick about this.
We're going to get back to it because Adam was there as well, and for the first time ever, I think he might watch a CW show, but we can come back to that.
But it's not for us.
Let's be clear.
It's not for Robyn
This
either.
CW show, although it's created by one of the people behind the Vampire Diaries, has no vampires in it. It's the most adult-looking drama they've ever put on. It actually looks like it could be on ABC or another network, and it looks really great. But we'll get. It's called Containment. We'll come back to that maybe later.
Okay, we'll circle back to Containment.
It's not all vampires and romance.
It kind of was up until this Containment show. I mean,
I'm not into. They have a lot of superhero stuff. The whole DC world is not my thing. So they're really building that universe, and that's not me. But
for me though, and this is obviously industry outsider, I look at network TV and I'm just like, oh, all the shows look like garbage on network TV compared to like what I'm used to. Like I basically just watch Comedy Central and FX. And I think FX puts out better stuff than anybody, for the most part.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although they've had a little slightly suspect run lately.
Like
stuff.
Maybe we don't renew Married
or Tyrant
or what was that?
Yeah,
is that
it's coming back this summer. We'll see.
Someone watched it.
Maybe it was a lack of resources on the bench. I don't know.
So here's a question: does the Fox upfront contain FX and FXX?
Yeah,
how does that work?
It did this year, sort of strangely for the first time. FX has in years past they've done their own. This year they didn't, and I don't know really why. And they didn't they don't do the whole presentation for FX, but like in their opening sizzle reel, they sort of focused on FX and FXX and National Geographic, basically the sort of the broad umbrella that Fox Networks now owns.
Okay.
And so they sort of referenced them, but they didn't. I mean, the majority of the upfront was focused on Fox Network, which is the big, top of the cash heap, I guess. So there was some mention of FX, but not a lot of drill down as you would have gotten at a specific FX upfront.
So I got a bone to pick with Fox. They announced a show called Minority Report.
Oh yes.
And that's one of my favorite films in the last, 2 decades. And then I saw this trailer, and I'm like, man, in 90 seconds, they kind of ruined that movie for me. What do you have an opinion on this show? To me, it just looks like, one of those ugly Sci-Fi Channel sort of C-rated movies.
I didn't have that reaction. I have only seen the movie once, and I'm pretty sure that I kind of dozed off in the middle of it. So
I liked
during Minority Report. I mean, Tom Cruise.
It was a while ago, and it was just a bad situation. But from what I remember of it, I was sort of surprised because it's not really my type of thing. Sci-fi is not really my jam.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at actually how accessible they kind of made it feel in the trailer. As someone who usually just tunes it out right away, I was kind of surprised by what it looked like and what it was about. And so I was intrigued enough to actually want to sit down and watch the full pilot and see from there. But yeah, I mean, what about it sort of undid the movie or ruined the movie for you?
I just think the problem with network TV, and this is with that Gotham show too, everything feels very watered down.
Right.
Maybe because I don't know, it's like no one's dirty. Have you never noticed that? Like, there's not enough.
It's not gritty enough.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, it just seems like they don't, pay the same amount of attention to detail as they do on other shows. I mean, and I always reference FX because they, the production value there is sort of over the top for a lot of stuff. I mean, for like the peak years of Sons of Anarchy, I mean, that show was kind of unbeatable for me. And then when you look at a show like, Gotham or even this Minority Report, it just feels a little
Cheap.
They're a little sugar coated, and maybe you have to dumb it down for a generalized audience. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you have to dumb it down. I think some shows like The Good Wife or Parenthood, there have been some quality dramas that I think that haven't necessarily had to dumb things down. But I do think what you get on broadcast TV, or what I've noticed, is that things move a lot faster. Things happen more quickly. I think that because there's so much advertising money, again, that we're talking about, sort of dumped on these networks, they feel like they can't afford to have people change the channel at all. So they have to keep them locked in. They have to keep them right there. They have to move the story along. They don't want anybody to say, oh, I'm bored, I'm changing the channel. So I think you just speed sort of factors in, and they go through things quicker. And sometimes I think that's at the expense of diving deeper into characters or getting a little grittier or more complex or things like that.
So it's that revenue model that actually influences and changes the very structure of a narrative.
Sure, and I think you can even see that in basic cable. I think when you have, AMC putting on Mad Men and Breaking Bad, back in the days, they took their time with those shows. They let them build. They didn't have to worry about it. But then when they get a little bit of success, The Walking Dead, something like that comes on, it does, for better or worse, it changes the way they approach the business, because that's a huge moneymaker. And so they, HBO, everybody's that's gone through this. Once they get a little prestige, it's great. But when they get the thing that really hits, then that's what they're going to try to sort of go in that direction, because that's where the business just sort of naturally goes. So you always want to, in my opinion, the biggest creative strides any television show's ever made is when it's on the ground floor of something, when it's new. When those new things get a few years under their belt, they naturally sort of become more like a broadcast network, just by sort of the nature of the business, I think.
So because we got questions about people saying, well, if I DVR a show all the time, like who's benefiting from that?
I mean, more and more they are factoring those things in. A couple of years ago, all of the networks started saying, again, to the advertisers, to the press as well, don't just report the overnight ratings anymore, because it's not the same. When a show adds 4 million extra viewers in DVR replays, that's significant. And so some shows that a year ago or 5 years ago would have been canceled because their numbers are terrible, they come up in the DVR and they're like, that's not so bad. So I think for a while the networks have been looking at those numbers and making decisions based on them, and now they're trying to get, I think, the people on the outside that are covering the industry to look at it the same way. And I think for the most part, we still sort of are tied to those overnight ratings, but we do factor in those things. Like when we're writing a report about the bubble shows and what's going to come back or not, we say, they might keep this one because it adds 5 million viewers every week in DVR plays. So it does play a factor now more than it used to.
I mean, because, what I always wonder is like, well, how is any revenue being generated, right? Because if you're DVRing, it's the same thing with like if you have ad blocker turned on your on a browser,
right?
You're not getting served the ad. If you DVR, you're not getting served the ad.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of networks that are really trying to push advertisers into their on-demand platforms, because you watch a lot of that stuff the week of or whatnot. You can't fast forward,
which is so
exactly.
But also, as far as the network's concerned, in terms of DVR, once those ads are sold, they're sold. So like they're getting the money, whether or not the advertiser's actually getting the best bang for their buck.
Yeah.
And again, that's why you might see some advertisers say, I only want to buy the shows that do really well with live audiences, and they maybe don't spend as much money on the shows that have a small audience tune in but have the big DVR playback. So it's a new world. It's changing all the time, and it really makes our job both difficult but also interesting to sort of see how the model's changing all the time.
What's crazy is I don't really think the way we have TV now with DVR, we're kind of still in this, Wild West period where it's sort of unregulated. You can fast forward commercials. I truly believe that the hourglass is running dry on that. I don't think you will be able to record a TV show in 10 years and skip the commercials. It's just not going to happen. I mean, what do you guys think? I truly believe like you will, and I guess this, leads into a bigger discussion, but I really think eventually, watching a live show will be this like strange sort of experience. Like, did you watch them shoot that show live? Did you see the first recording of that?
Well, I think in terms of watching live, like I know for me personally, a lot of it has to do with social media. Like the shows that I like to be, present on social media with, I won't miss it, because then I'm not part of the conversation when if I were to watch 12 hours later. So I think in that respect, if social media is still as huge and still a big part of the entertainment process, like those are the shows that will still get the live viewers. But then if you don't care about being part of that conversation, like that's when you'll watch it a couple days later.
Yeah, and I think along with that, not just wanting to be a part of the conversation, but not to have everything spoiled for you.
Yeah.
I think ABC has built their entire Thursday night around you have to watch us live, or everyone's going to tell you what happened on Scandal, and you're going to want to kill the internet the next day.
Wow.
And it's actually done really
Genius.
well for them. I mean, that Shonda Rhimes block, Grey's Anatomy Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder in the Fall, was just enormous, and so it really worked for them. But following on another thing you said about sort of 10 years from now, I don't know if I want to put an exact timeline on it. I just think the way things are going, the way with niche sort of platforms and whatnot, where you have your Netflixes and your Hulus, I think it's just almost somewhere in the future, I think it's basically just going to be here's a bunch of content and just watch what you want. I think it's going to be a lot of personalization, just you building your own scheduling. You know, part of the upfronts is them showing you what nights and what days and time slots things are going to be on. And I think that's going to matter less and less. I think it's just going to be, here's all our content, put it in your box and watch it, and we'll. Again, I don't have a timeline for that. I think it's going to be a while, but I think that's ultimately where it's going, because you have so many different people, not just networks and cable and channels. You know, they have, PlayStation. Everybody's making their own programming now, and I think it's just going to be a big web of shows and things to watch and entertain yourself with. So
what freaks me out is like the late night guys, where the it seems like a lot of it is consumed live, but then I find out who had the best night in late night the next day when I see what clips are trending and what's hot. So for me, it's like, oh well, I saw that live. I'm you're somehow like you had a superior experience, but it's very strange. It's almost like these performances that they get recorded, and then everyone sort of like it trickles out through the internet and sort of has its ride.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. David Letterman recently, he did an interview with the New York Times, sort of in his goodbye tour, and really said, like, he totally missed the boat on all that. Like, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, those guys came along, and he said that's kind of one of the reasons he knew it was time for him to go, because he's like, that's not what I do, and that's not what I'm ever going to be good at, and he really doesn't. Like, you still see clips from his interviews come out, but he's not producing content specifically aimed at sort of that internet generation. You have Jimmy Fallon doing all these bits with Brad Pitt and things like that. So, I mean, it's interesting. I think those shows aren't just late night shows anymore. They're really aimed at the internet, I think, like you said.
It's weird. It's a weird time. That seems like a lot of trouble that I don't want to be dealing with. Yeah, it's crazy. What do you guys? I mean, we should obviously disclose. I think everyone knows we're a CBS company. But what do you guys? Did they do stuff with Colbert? How did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you play that out for me?
Yeah.
I'll let Robyn take that one first.
Oh, thanks.
Why? Do you have like a Colbert thing? Or?
No, but I think Adam's avoiding the subject.
Okay, fair enough.
No,
fair enough.
watch. I mean, like I said, ABC has Kimmel. A lot of these networks have this big opening. The one for CBS was already taped, and they did a whole sketch with Colbert, and they basically had him, about to go out the door, and then he gets stuck watching it, and then he's just binging on all these amazing CBS procedurals, and then he has a beard, and then Les Moonves shows up, and it's like, let's go, it's time to go. And next thing you know, they both have beards because they've been binging for so long, and there's a dog or somewhere along the way.
And the dog has a beard also.
The dog,
Nice.
Yeah, and then
it was a funny bit. I think it just went on a little bit too long, and but when Stephen Colbert did come out on stage after that, it was sort of a taped thing that he led to his introduction on the stage, and I think he was better there in the live setting. I think the bit went on a little maybe too long, especially since I don't personally know a lot of people who just binge CBS shows. CBS is one of the networks that has the biggest live, viewership. So people are watching those shows when they're on, and maybe not saving them up for weeks and weeks on their DVR to sort of cram through them.
Because they probably don't have DVR. Is that what you're saying?
No, I just thought maybe the concept of the bit was a little flawed too.
Yeah.
Right on.
But maybe Colbert is a person who would be binging because he's been busy doing his other show for a few years. So.
I guess so. So the big question that we've gotten, for whatever reason, people think like we have his number on speed dial. But
he's actually chained at my desk right now.
Right, he's just waiting for you to come back.
Yeah.
People want to know, the shtick that he does. He did a character for 9 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those people that kind of don't really buy into the whole character thing. I think Steve Colbert on Comedy Central was 70% his real character sort of persona, and then 30% of that, psychotic Republican thing. So
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think that's probably right. And that was sort of, again, that was the basis of the bit with him. He was saying, I've been playing Stephen Ghost, but who's the real Stephen Colbert? And so that was sort of he was going to go out and find himself. And that's when he got stuck watching Criminal Minds for hours. But yeah, I think what I don't want to see and what I'm afraid we are going to see is just more of the same, like, talk shows. It was like when Conan went to TBS, everybody was like, oh, he's going to turn the world upside down because he's going to get revenge on being fired from the Tonight Show. And really what he went and did was the same talk show that people have been doing on those networks forever. And it's just, that's what he's good. That's what he wanted to do. So I get that. So, it's going to be interesting to see Colbert go from that format where he was talking to America and playing that character to where he's having to be the affable guy behind the desk, letting these celebrities, shield their movies and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if he plays into that, sort of making digital only content as well and sort of focusing on doing taped bits like that. I want to see him do more of that. I want the best parts of his old show to transfer, but I'm afraid we're still going to have to be stuck kind of in that sort of late night format that we've been seeing a lot of for many years. So
crazy to think about what that show's going to look like. Very exciting. All right, when we come back, we got to take a break. We're going to go through Adam and Robyn have lists in front of them. There's like canceled shows that are coming back. I have a list in front of me now. I'm an expert officially. I've been knighted as a TV expert. More 404 right after this. You've probably heard me complain before about using actual blades to shave, right? You've heard me complain about how I just get too roughed up. I'm too sensitive. I'm a delicate animal who gets burned by regular blades. Up until recently, I'd only been using an electric shaver. But now, thanks to Harry's, our sponsor, I might be a blade man once again. I used to hate using blades because it was painful. It was uncomfortable. I would get razor burn. I would break out. I'd bleed. I'd get nicks all over my neck. And not to mention, it was super expensive. I was spending a ridiculous amount of money every time I needed a new blade. Well, with Harry's, you get all of your blades for about half the price of those big brand blades, and they ship to your door for free. They're actually better, too, because the first blades were made in Germany, and they liked those quality blades so much that Harry's was like, hey, we're just gonna get up and move the factory to Germany. Why would you pay $32 for an 8-pack of blades? That is robbery. It's half the price at Harry's, and with Harry's, you get a better shave that respects your skin, your face, your legs, wherever you want to shave, wherever you're sensitive, and it respects your wallet. No more poor quality blades and no more plexiglass that separates you and the blades you want to buy when you go to the pharmacy. That's a humiliating experience. The starter set that you get is an amazing deal. It's just $15, and you get a razor, some moisturizing shave cream, and 3 blades. Do us a favor, go to harrys.com right now, use the promo code CNET, that's CNET, and you get $5 off that amazing deal on your first purchase. Men, women, we all need razors that shave well and that don't hurt you. These guys at Harry's, they sent me a box, and I'm not going to lie, you get this box and you're like, man, this is that old school, barbershop sort of treatment you're getting. A gentleman's barbershop treatment. Really nice box, really nice packaging. And the build quality of the razor is really impressive. I used it. I swear to you I used it. And I didn't have the bad memories of what I went through in college, cutting myself on my neck. It was actually okay. And my wife said to me, she's like, you look different. And I was like, yeah, I used a real blade. And she was impressed. So I'm going to keep using this sample pack that they sent me. Again, $15, you get the razor, moisturizing shave cream, 3 blades, and with our exclusive promo code here at CNET, you get $5 off that introductory first purchase deal. All right? So once again, go to harrys.com, enter CNET as the promo code. That's harrys.com. You'll save $5 right out of the gate. Make sure you check them out. Okay, back here on the 404 show, we've got Robyn, Ross, Adam, Bryant from TVGuide.com. Thank you for being here.
Yep.
of course.
Are you enjoying your first time, or how do you feel?
This is made
I
for
have
him.
to say I'm a big time fan of podcasts in general. I listen to probably about 10, 15 podcasts a week. So
But not mine.
that's not true. I watched the video show some back
you
in the
did?
day, and I've
I'm
listened to some
sorry.
of them. So
I'm
I
sorry
mean,
about that.
probably not before Robyn made her first appearance.
Right, gotcha.
Then once that happened, I went back and did some homework, some research. So,
Oh, okay.
So yeah, no, a big fan.
Well, thanks. But what other podcasts do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of the Grantland Network
Yeah.
podcasts. I listen to Marin, obviously, and it used to be on the Grantland Network, and it's now on Slate, I believe. It's The Moment with Bryant Koppelman. He's a screenwriter. He interviews a lot of actors and other screenwriters and stuff, and it's pretty good. I listen to a couple TV podcasts. I listen to the Nerdist podcast. You know, some of the bigger ones, and I'm not like a deep dive. I've started listening lately to a boxing podcast called The Ropes again. on
Boxing?
Grantland. Yeah.
That's so
Really?
random.
Yeah, I have a
Are you? Did you know he's into boxing?
I mean, I knew.
I'm relatively new into
Yeah.
boxing. I have a really good friend of mine. Shout out to Kyle Thomas. He'll never listen to this probably, but he came up a couple years ago. He's been a boxing fan as long as I've known him, and there was two sort of Brooklyn guys that he had watched sort of their younger career, and they were doing a big fight in Brooklyn. It was sort of like the king of Brooklyn fight, so he was going to visit anyway. So we went to the fight, and then through that experience, I started watching more and more, and he came back for the big heavyweight title fight at the Garden a few weeks ago, Klitschko Jennings, and we went to that, and of course watched Mayweather Pacquiao, all that. So I've recently sort of become more and more obsessed with it. I'm not an expert or anything like that, but I've been listening to the podcast, trying to grow. When I get into something, I want to know the history.
Sure.
So I've sort of been doing it in reverse.
What that I don't know how I feel about boxing. Just because I don't know, and I like hockey, which has a bit of boxing in it.
Sure.
But it's very strange to me that it's still a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I've noticed most, and again, I'm not going to be any kind of expert on the sport or the work that goes into it. I think they all do work really hard. And
Totally, they're amazing athletes.
But the thing I've noticed more just about going to some of these events, the weigh-ins and stuff, like boxing or boxers are so great with their fans, unlike any other sport you see, because a lot of them are they're guys who spend a lot of time in the gym and they work hard, and they all have sort of, a lot of them have blue collar backgrounds, or they're just normal people. And I don't think, because boxing isn't recognized in the way that baseball or basketball, they don't have that inflated sense of ego, unless you're Floyd Mayweather, maybe. I see people just coming up to them and like they stop and pose for like 100 photos, and they never seem like it's an imposition to them or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, in terms of the sport itself, I think I enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
I think it's I don't know. Again, I'm still too new to really make any grand pop.
Because you don't come across people who are like, oh, I'm brand new into boxing now.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But it's an interesting time. I mean, going back to the TV connection, they're putting, network TV is putting on boxing fights now. There's a new league called the Premier Boxing Champions, which is they've aired some cards on CBS in the afternoons on Saturdays. They did a primetime on NBC one Saturday night. They're on Spike, so they're trying to make it not just be the premium cable stuff anymore. And I think it's an interesting time for the sport, for people like me who are new to maybe jump into it.
It's like, oh, I turned 50 and then I got into boxing. It was weird.
Well, I'm not 50.
I'm not saying I wasn't saying you. I'm saying, how do you feel about boxing? I'm curious.
It's not my thing.
Well,
I love sports.
Yeah.
Adam will see me
like?
during March Madness.
Oh,
I grew up playing a lot of sports, more team sports, volleyball and basketball. But boxing, when I found out that Mayweather is the highest paid athlete in the world, I guess, I was just like, what?
That was my... I was like, huh?
So, and it's just not my thing to watch, and I could care less of the fight the other week. And
I've taken us very far afield from our original topic, I think,
Yeah.
so I apologize.
But the problem I had, and that's what we do on the show, it was $100.
Yeah.
How is that okay? It wasn't worth $100.
I'll say this. I spent it. My wife took some convincing, but she's also sort of with me, has gotten into the sport a little bit more, which is kind of funny.
She is. You're not putting
not,
words in her mouth?
Not like into it. No, she's watched the last 3 fights that I've watched, right beside me. And
because it's been on the TV, or because
Well, no,
you're like,
she
honey?
we get into their viewing together.
She actively like said, let's do it. I think
You guys had your own scorecards
She's a
the whole
fan
time?
of Jim Lampley, who's the HBO's lead commentator. So Anyway, again, getting distracted. I don't even know where we were.
The money,
Oh,
$100.
the money. Yeah, I paid the $100. I think the thing about sports is the feeling you want from sports isn't necessarily the event itself, but the anticipation of what could happen. And so, like, seriously, like the build up to it, even if the fight wasn't good or whatever you think it was, I think just the anticipation of seeing what you're about to see, somehow it feels like it's worth it, even though it's probably not worth the $100, especially when, you know, it ended up pretty much exactly how everyone thought it was going to.
But don't you think that's part of like the con job is that they wrap this piece of shit in like this, you know, amazing $100 box, and you're like, oh my God, this thing's $100.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think it's a lot of hype. But again, I think for a long time, these guys who've been getting their, you know, heads bashed in for years and haven't gotten that kind of attention or that kind of respect, I think they deserve the money as much as anybody who sits in a dugout for half a game.
Oh, I'm not saying they don't deserve the money, and they better spend it quick before they just go to mush, because that's unfortunately kind of what happens. But anyway, all right, we digress a little bit with some boxing, but I'm glad we snuck that in, because I was trying to talk about it the other night, the other day with some of our co-hosts, and they just weren't having
Maybe on
it.
a future podcast
when
I've done some more of my homework and I'm a little more well versed in the game. We can chat some more.
I have a buddy who's super into it, and whenever I have a conversation with him, I want to punch him.
I will say, seeing the fights live is fun. Just like any sporting event, seeing it live and being there with the crowd, you kind of get swept up in it. So,
all right, I'll take your word for it, there, Mr. Bryant. All right, let's get to the renewals, the cancellations. You guys have little notes on your lists in
These
front of you.
These are all the new shows that are coming.
Okay, so these are the new shows. What do we think about new shows? What are the highlights? I guess we'll switch back and forth between you guys.
I'll go first, I guess. The big one that our users are responding to, and this is going to sound crazy again, we are owned by CBS, but the one that seems to be getting the most buzz is Supergirl.
Oh, yes.
CBS is finally getting in on the superhero craze. But just the trailer was very well received at the upfronts. I think everyone's been talking about it, watching it on replay. It stars Melissa Benoist, who was on Glee. And it's sort of going to tell the origin story of that character. You know, again, I've always been more of a Batman fan, so Superman's not my thing, and so Supergirl obviously wasn't. I didn't follow that as well, but the trailer, it looked like it was doing some things well. I think the tone of it was right. I'm just curious to see where it goes. Again, CBS is known for their sort of doing their cop procedurals, and I guess in some way this is a person maybe catching bad guys, but. I really kind of it's from Greg Berlanti, who has renovated the CW's lineup with Arrow and Flash, those also DC superheroes. So I think it's got a guy who knows what he's doing behind it. I just wonder how it's going to be received on that network with that audience, if it's gonna work. So I don't know, but that's one everyone's big talk has been buzzing about for a while. It was one of the most expected shows to be picked up. It was, and the trailer so far has gotten pretty positive reviews.
Okay. Is there any did CBS pick up any more like acronym shows or no? Or is that
actually they canceled CSI. They're going to wrap up CSI, which has been on for 15 years, and totally reinvigorated the network that many years ago.
Yeah.
They're ending it. It's going to be a 2-hour series finale in September, and they're bringing back actually William Peterson, Mark Helgenberger. They were there originally. They've both since left the show, but they're coming back for the end. So they're going to make a big event out of that. And then
Ted
Danson, who is currently on the show, he's moving over to CSI Cyber, which is the latest spinoff of CSI, which is coming back next year. So there's still going to be acronyms. NCIS is still going strong with 3 shows.
What's NCIS stand for?
NCIS,
Naval
Criminal Investigative Service.
So it's just like Navy police?
It's basically the CSIs of Navy, although they don't really do the whole crime scene science as much. They're just a team of investigators who solve naval-related crimes.
Or something?
In D.C., in L.A., and in New Orleans currently. Who knows? Maybe we'll get NCIS Poughkeepsie next year.
Oh, man. That would be awesome. All right. And Robyn, what's your first highlighted new pickup?
Well, we mentioned it a little before, Containment. Obviously, that was had a lot of buzz in the pilot stages of what was going to get picked up. It comes from Julie Plec, who I'm, a big fan of because she did create the Vampire Diaries and the spinoff, The Originals. And actually one of the stars in Containment is coming off of a run on the Vampire Diaries as a really dynamic villain that everyone loved. So I'm excited that he's getting another show.
Who is that?
His name is Chris Wood.
Okay.
He's great. Like someone definitely to look for. But this show is actually based on a Belgian series, and it takes place in Atlanta, and it's sort of pre-apocalypse when there's like a viral outbreak, and basically there's a cordon where people are either stuck inside the cordon, the quarantine, or stuck on the outside, and that sort of sets the stage for unlikely heroes and people trying to save their loved ones. And
I like that no one's doing that. No one's really doing that.
Yeah.
Containment's going to break some barriers here.
Yeah. It's like pre-Walking, sort of like Walking Dead, but the build up to what actually happened before Walking Dead started, in a sense.
Well, there's like a Walking Dead spinoff also, right?
That's coming on this summer.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually going to sort of walk in that territory as well. I think it's going to be, it's being sold as a prequel, or it seems to be sold as a prequel. And basically, I think we're going to see the virus sort of spread. In the original show, Rick falls asleep or he goes into a coma and wakes up, and the world's all full of zombies. I think we're going to see how that came to be over in Los Angeles, where the new show is set.
You're going to have a lot of comic book fans pissed off at that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. I had a love-hate relationship with the show. I didn't read the comic books that much. I read some of them before the show started. I think there's an opportunity there. I think, it's hopefully it gives them the chance to do more creative things, because there's not any sort of precedent for it. There's not a book they're following this time, and they can tell maybe a different kind of stories. I feel like the worst thing about The Walking Dead is that they kind of do the same thing over and over again. They go to a place, it's safe for a while, then it's not, and they move on. I mean, that's just kind of how the world works.
That's how the book goes too.
It just goes on and on forever. And so, I think there's a lot more danger, a lot more uncertainty, maybe a lot more complexity in sort of the early stages of this. We've been watching these people for years now sort of wrestle with their morality as they kill zombies and humans, and maybe it's going to be much earlier in the process when they're sort of dealing with those feelings. So I have hopes that it will be different, although I'm pretty sure you're going to get zombies getting their heads smashed in pretty soon, because that's what people love.
Totally. It's crazy, especially with that. You're playing with an idea that has this finite sort of conclusion, that you know where it's going.
Right.
So playing with that is probably an interesting sort of juggling situation.
Yeah, we should note that Containment's not on this fall. It's actually being held to mid-season, which is
It'll be 13 episodes.
It's a big trend this year. Actually, the last few years, a lot of the networks are not necessarily putting on some of the stuff that looks the best, at least in our eyes, based on a trailer, which is not really the best way to review these things. They're holding that stuff back to mid-season. And sometimes it's strategic. Like in NBC's case, they've had really good falls. They have football on. They do really well in the fall, and then they sort of slack off through the rest of the year. So I think they're trying to hold back some of the big guns that they have, and are trying to put those on in January and the spring, so that they can sort of sustain their number one status through the whole year. So, a lot of these shows, some of them are being held to mid-season.
Yeah, another show that I think we both are looking forward to, or I am, that's also mid-season, is Wicked City. I can't remember. You liked it, right?
Yeah.
So we both had put it on our list. It used to be called LA Crime. We made a list sort of right prior to all the pickups of the shows that we kind of wanted to see get picked up, and this was on there. And then
this is Wicked City.
Wicked City. Seeing the trailer just reaffirmed everything I'm excited for, because it is going to fill the stalker-sized hole in my heart, because I am probably one of a handful of people who liked Stalker on CBS.
Oh, Stalker, the show. Okay,
Yeah,
I thought you were getting some Stalker fantasy.
No.
Robyn is a stalker.
Well, that too. But and it also stars Ed Westwick from Gossip Girl, who I actually
from Gossip Girl. Yeah.
No, I've actually heard this from an ABC executive that this is going to be the role. I mean, he's kind of unrecognizable. I mean, the show takes place in the 80s. And
I like that.
It's supposed to be a limited series, so a lot of the people
it's an anthology series. If it carries on, it'll be a whole new cast. It's kind of the True Detective model or Fargo. They're going to redo it all again.
Right.
Gotcha.
So,
American Horror Story.
Right. So a couple of people signed on for one season only, and that's also nice, because you go into it knowing there is going to be resolution at the end of that first season if it is going to move on to another story. But basically, he's a serial killer in Los Angeles, set in the 80s. It's sort of gritty Sunset Strip kind of thing.
It feels like Drive a little bit already.
The script has lots of call out for Van Halen songs to be played. So there's a lot of scenes that take place at the Whiskey. So it's set in that world. It's actually the conceit of the series is that it's actually all about sort of LA crimes through the years. I think some of them will be maybe invented. Some will be based on real crimes. This one is, again, about a guy who has killed a lot of young women, and the cop that's trying to catch him. But then twist along the way is that one of the girls he's dating is also kind of crazy. So there's like a Bonnie and Clyde serial killer,
Natural born
action,
killer sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it sounds interesting.
Interest peaked.
Yeah, definitely.
Putting a little mark
what
next to that.
What else on your list?
I am not the biggest viewer of network TV comedy or really any comedy. I like to laugh. I make priorities for drama in my life
I don't watch
most of the
comedies
time.
Wait. Hold that thought, Adam. We have to pick this bone. What do you mean you don't like joy?
No,
You
everything.
don't like to laugh.
I love to laugh. Everything I watch on TV.
How do you not laugh watching
is a
Vampire
drama.
Diaries? How do you not laugh? How do you not laugh?
Because I'm too busy crying and sobbing and wishing for.
That's why you need the palate cleanser.
You're too soft.
But no, Adam
I
doesn't
don't
watch comedies either.
Yeah,
to be
that's
fair, neither
But
of
you
us.
like the Goldbergs?
I do. I watch some comedy. I don't watch
the
as much.
Goldbergs.
I love the
is
Goldbergs.
So
I think the
goddamn good.
The Goldbergs I really, really enjoy. But also, I watch a lot of dramas that are also really funny.
Yeah.
Mad Men is one of the funniest shows on TV, regardless of how serious it takes itself. Breaking Bad was darkly funny,
Sure.
So I appreciate comedy. It's just not my go-to.
And neither of us really cover comedies.
Someday when I catch up on all the things there are to watch on TV, I'm going to watch every comedy ever. But I grew up watching Friends and Cheers and Cosby and all that stuff. I have a place in my heart for TV comedy. It's just not as much of what I do day to day now in this job. So.
Well, and I don't really watch the broadcast TV comedy. There's besides Goldbergs and maybe Modern Family, which is. Oh my God, it's enough already with that show. But because none of it's funny. It's not funny.
Right.
I don't really laugh at any of that stuff.
It's a hard thing. I mean, the reason you get these shows that are still watched like Friends and Seinfeld forever is because they got the formula right, and it's hard. It's a hard thing. It's all about chemistry. It's about the right cast. I think Parks and Rec had that cast, and I thought it was a really funny show when I was able to watch it. But it's a tough thing. But anyway, what I was saying, despite my aversion to watching TV comedy. I think two of the most interesting shows this year are on Fox, and it's sort of a nostalgia throwback comedy block. John Stamos is starring in a show called Grandfathered, where he's sort of the quintessential bachelor who then finds out not only does he have a son he never knew about, but that son also has a child. So he's all of a sudden gone from bachelor to grandfather.
He's too good looking to be a grandfather.
The next
one. Paired with that, the only other guy who you think could follow that is Rob Lowe.
Both of which have not aged.
Right.
Literally.
Magically.
He's starring in a show called The Grinder. He's basically an actor. He's been on a TV show playing a lawyer called The Grinder for 8 years. His show gets canceled, and he decides to move back home and take over his family law firm because he's just convinced he can be a lawyer regardless of whether or not he's in training.
Right.
Fred Savage from The Wonder Years plays his brother, who actually is a lawyer and kind of gets upstaged by his better looking older brother.
Cool.
So it's a really the trailers for both of those are really charming. I think the nostalgia factor for John Stamos is harder than ever with the Netflix picking up the Full House spin-off. Right, so I think it's going to be good, and the shows seem to actually have the goods. And Fox building their comedy block around those two shows on Tuesday nights. So I'm anxious or eager to check those out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're really good at selling these shows, man. I'm psyched.
I've been sitting in these rooms all week listening to all the buzzwords being thrown at me.
You're just becoming the man.
I'm just a parrot.
That's it.
They told me it was good, so
I watched the trailer. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
So you have no comedies on your list, is what I'm assuming.
No, I don't. Although this is kind of, I guess it's a comedy. One thing that we're both sort of interested to see how it does. So the CW picked up a show called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. It was originally developed at Showtime as a half-hour comedy.
Yeah.
It's now going to be an hour musical type of show, but it stars Rachel Bloom, who actually lived with one of the girls in Broad City, she was telling me. So she, looks sort of is in that world. It's paired with Jane the Virgin, which is virtually CW's only non-supernatural type of show, so it's a great pairing. It's definitely out there in terms of the musical aspect. I have no idea how it's going to work. She's
name one show where that's worked.
I mean, Glee lasted, however many seasons.
It was
but
I So are they gonna?
I'm not a musical person,
Right.
as
But are
I'm
they
not
gonna
a comedy, so
just randomly break out into
Yes.
music?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's like full-on
full production
musical.
numbers.
Yeah.
There's a lyric about a pretzel, and then a giant pretzel sweeps her off her feet.
It's also a nod, probably like in tongue in cheek in a way to like how ridiculous it is.
Again, it's
but-
just a trailer, so we don't know what the execution is in the actual pilot.
Yeah.
Can a show get canceled just from a trailer? Is that from the reception?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but the premise of the show is basically she had this crush on this guy in high school who kind of rejected her. She meets up with him later when she's sort of successful in Manhattan, and he's like, "I'm moving to this weird small town in California. If you're ever out there, come see me." So she packs up her whole life and moves out there for this guy, and that's sort of the idea. She's a crazy ex-girlfriend or whatnot. So I'm really not sold on it.
Yeah, I'm not either,
I
but-
more want to watch it just for the fact the crazy factor of what what the trailer made me feel when I saw it. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but I'm intrigued to just see what it is, because it's whether it's a success or a failure, it's going to be something unlike anything else that's on TV this year.
It sounds like broadcast rubbernecking is what it sounds like. I just can't look away from this disaster. I have to watch it.
Yeah. I'm not all CW though. The other thing
I don't believe that.
My other jam is I love the sort of Dick Wolf. I love Chicago Fire and Chicago PD, and there's now going to be Chicago Med, which was
It's
a
just like a
backdoor.
little Sim City of all Chicago.
Well, in the same way, there's also going to be a Criminal Minds spinoff, and so both were sort of had backdoor pilots, which basically means an episode of the show it's stemming from this season featured and introduced those characters that had it tested well, which they obviously did. They then you've already met these characters, and then you go off and they'll have their own show. Both of those spinoffs. I mean, I've been watching Criminal Minds since the beginning, and then Chicago PD and Fire I've sort of come to this year, or maybe a little bit last year. So both of those I'm actually excited for, just pretty much because I do like the originals. So
all right.
Well, sticking with medical drama, that was sort of a big trend this year.
Yeah.
NBC, in addition to Chicago Med, they also picked up a show called Heartbreaker, which I'm not endorsing at all.
How could you call a medical show Heartbreaker?
Because she's a thoracic surgeon, she's a heart surgeon. So
yeah, that's my thing. It's like
it looks it's my personal bet for the first show canceled this year, but I don't know.
it seems
you guys have like cool like office pools.
We're working on it.
Yeah,
so it's still
we
a little
talk about
early.
it, but we need
to
to
see the actual pilots first.
I mean,
Yeah.
I go to a TV. Do you ever have like Death Watch, like that sort of thing?
I mean,
we have shows that are on the bubble later on.
Informally,
Yeah.
we do that, but
you should
there's-
totally do it formally. It should totally be out
But
there.
CBS also has a medical drama this year called Code Black. I
Yes.
liked the script. Robyn did not.
Yes, we both read it, just the pilot script before it got picked up.
It felt like it had the energy of ER to it, which is a medical drama that I really did like. And again, that you could say that seems repetitive to go back to that place, and maybe it is. The trailer did not, to me, didn't seem to give me the same kind of feelings I had about the script.
Right.
But I want to see the whole pilot. The trailer was well received by others. It didn't quite hit me the way I hoped it had, but it stars Marcia Gay Harden. She's sort of the main doctor in it, and she's got a tragic backstory that makes her want to save lives. And it's basically the whole conceit of that show is that they're working at sort of the busiest ER in the country. And basically, Code Black is when sort of they're so full of patients that like all the bets are off, and everyone has to sort of all hands on deck to come together. So,
just constant chaos.
They're
in the
they're
hospital.
trying to avoid getting to Code Black, and I'm sure they probably will fail in that every single episode.
Right.
You
So-
know what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Here's how that show's gonna work. And you guys already read the pilot.
Yeah.
But it's always it's gonna start, right? Not every show opens with credit. It's gonna start, and then just like that schmuck with the glasses on CSI, they're just gonna be like, "Doctor, we're at Code Black."
Black.
Then they run the
I
credit.
think it
That's how it's
happens.
gonna roll.
I think it happens at the end of the first or second act in the
Yeah.
pilot. So.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think I liked about the script was that despite all the chaos and the intensity, there were some emotional beats that I think landed. They landed okay in the trailer, but I think it'll depend. It's hard to judge any show on a trailer, even to judge it on a pilot, because so much happens and
You have
sort
to
of
set up so
coming
much
together.
backstory.
So but it's of the medical dramas that I read in the run up to this season. That's the one I liked the best, and it got picked up. So we'll see what happens.
All right, we've got Code Black, Doctor. What's so there's a huge list here, and we're gonna put it up on. We'll link it in the show notes later today if you head over to cnet.com/the404. Real quick before I want to move on to some cancellations, and then we're gonna start to wrap things up. What's the player? Does that have anything to do with the
Yes.
movie? Or no.
No, that's actually it's a new show. It's on
Okay.
NBC. It's from the same people who did The Blacklist.
Okay.
So it's a really high octane thriller. It's kind of a weird concept that I'm not quite sure I've got my head wrapped around. Basically, Philip Winchester, who is in a Cinemax show called Strike Back, which is again really action packed. He's like a former military guy who's now a security specialist. Anyway, his wife is killed, and he's recruited by Wesley Snipes to sort
We found him.
to be what they call the player. They have this sort of weird setup where he and another lady they bet on crime, and basically it's basically a conceit for this guy to go out and stop different bad guys every week because it's a procedural. But the whole gambling conceit, it's set in Las Vegas. I don't understand exactly how that factors into the trailer. Doesn't make it clear how that factors into the story all that well. But it does look like if you're into sort of the muscular thrills of the Blacklist, I think you're going to find a lot to go with that show. And they're putting it on right after the Blacklist on Thursday night, so it's going to be sort of a 2-hour block of that kind of show. So again, a procedural, a big hunky guy catching bad guys, and Wesley Snipes in a 3-piece suit.
Why not?
But speaking of movie actors and movie adaptations, we said Minority Report. The other one is Limitless,
Right.
which is going to be on CBS. And they've said, Bradley Cooper's in the pilot. They've sort of said, pending availability, he might appear again. But that's again, it's based on that movie,
Right.
So
That's
it's interesting that
what's
they're
that
doing
movie
a lot
with,
of
like,
it.
he can use.
He basically takes a drug that sort of makes him the smartest man in the world or something like that.
God.
So once this new guy does it, and the pilot's a different character, I guess Bradley Cooper's sort of showing him the way.
He offers him the pill in an alley somewhere.
Once he takes the pill, his way his brain works, the FBI is like, oh, we'll just use him to catch all the bad guys. So
Right.
he's sort of the CBS's latest, Sherlock or Patrick Jane from The Mentalist, sort of a really smart guy catching bad guys.
He's always a superhero detective
Yeah.
in some capacity.
And you'll notice also the other trend of reboots. I don't know if you saw Coach, The Muppets,
Right.
and Uncle Buck. Which
Uncle Buck.
is based on the movie,
Yeah.
not necessarily a reboot. But yeah, so I mean, nostalgia is just.
That's crazy. I'm obviously looking forward to the Muppets because it's the freaking
They're-
Muppets.
I kind of laughed at the trailer. I don't know.
I mean,
But you know what
all
I
the
realized?
movies are pretty good.
But here's my question. Are the Muppets going to be there for the TCA panel? Or is it...
What's
that's
that?
The one
What's
thing
a
I keep
TCA
thinking.
panel?
So twice a year, there's a function called the Television Critics Association Winter and Summer Press Tours, and basically, as I was saying earlier, the upfronts, we have our moments that aren't about the advertisers. It's about 10 days in a hotel ballroom in LA where all the networks sort of on a different day bring all their new talent through. They do like big panel discussions, like press conferences, and then we can get them on video or do interviews. And
so
stuff
you want to know
like
if
that.
Kermit the Frog will be available for?
Right.
Well, I'm just curious because, I mean, who else there... Maybe Jared Burns?
Bill, yes, but Bill Prady, who is the executive producer of Big Bang Theory, is behind this sort of reboot.
Right.
And they're promising that it's going to be sort of a more adult version of the Muppets, which I don't think means it's not aimed at kids, but it's going to poke fun at sort of the Modern Family Office mockumentary style of storytelling, and it's actually going to delve into their personal relationships more.
Cool.
So expect to see some Kermit Piggy drama.
Right. I mean, Muppets always
But Muppets are dating
achieve
humans
that.
as well.
But it's not just like sort of the variety show that they used to do in the past.
Gotcha.
It's going to be more a narrative story, I think, involving these characters. So, but the trailer had all your favorites in there. Fozzie's there and Swedish Chef, all that stuff's there. So
Fozzie Bear. It's so good.
Animal. Our boss loves Animal, so we have.
Yeah, why not? He's the man. All right, real quick. The strangest debut for a show. What's the weirdest show where you're like, how could this work? I know you talked about the ex-girlfriend show. That sounds crazy enough.
I'm blanking on the name. The tattoos.
Blind Spot.
Blind Spot. Yeah.
But it's funny. It's a weird conceit, but I think it's going to find an audience. It's kind of like the Born Identity meets Prison Break. This woman is found in a duffel bag in Times Square
with tattoos all over her body.
She's naked, but she's covered in tattoos.
All right. I'm not hating
and they
it.
mean, of course,
she has no memory of anything.
Of course not. They wiped it.
Yeah, and then slowly she begins to realize that she knows kung fu and she speaks Chinese, and so she.
It's like Memento a little bit.
Yeah, sort of. So she sort of becomes like a special ops person who, again, helps them catch bad guys because there's some big conspiracy that's tattooed all over her body.
So she got dumped in Times Square
In
where
a duffel bag.
where there's no cameras anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And
Look
so-
forward to Blind Spot.
But yeah, it sounds kind of crazy, but I think again, it looks like the kind of thing that could catch on, and they're putting it after The Voice, which is their best time slot they have on NBC.
That's true.
And that's where they launched the Blacklist to success a couple years ago, and it's getting that time slot. And again, it feels very action packed in the same way. So we'll see.
Give them credit for taking a chance, right?
Sure.
At least
Yeah.
it's not something you've heard of before, you know.
Yeah, and it's not
It's
them
out
also
there.
rebooting Heroes. They're
Yeah.
bringing back Heroes in the fall as well.
Yeah,
so.
nobody asked for that. I don't know what that's about. So the cancellations and shows that are ending, are there any like big sort of surprises on this list? And again, we'll link to it in the show notes. Anything like that's really sort of
Well, I think the Mindy Project was a big one.
That was
where
a crowd
Just today,
pleaser.
they officially announced just like a few hours ago that it is getting picked up by
On Hulu,
Hulu. But
okay.
I think the ratings had sort of suffered over the years. But I think people were sort of surprised.
I think there was a big fan outcry. Probably the biggest one this year was for Revenge, which has been on for 4 years. That show, to me, went off the rails a long time ago,
Yeah.
but it's still what audience it had left was passionate. And our colleague Sadie, she wrote about the finale and thought they really felt kind of rushed and silly at the end, which to me it always felt silly. But I think there was some disappointment there with that one. And also, it was a new show on ABC called Forever, which a lot of people had sort of latched on to. Its ratings weren't great, but it did get the axe. And there's been a lot of tweets in our direction, people hoping to somehow
Resurrect
save that
it.
one. And maybe they will. I don't know. That show was about a guy who dies and wakes up in the Hudson River every time he dies, and he can't die. So maybe he will live on somewhere else. I don't know.
Oh, I don't hate that.
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
It's-
Feels a little
it's a little
John
charming.
Malkovich-y in a way.
Yeah, but he was also using those powers to solve
Yeah.
crime.
It's always using the powers to solve crime.
That's it. Because what else
That's
can
what
you?
it's all about.
No one ever has fun. Like
No.
robs banks and does cool stuff. They're like, no, I got to save the world.
Right.
We'll take one more break and then we'll finish things up with Robyn and Adam. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Big shout out to Igloo, our new sponsors on the 404 show. Igloo is an intranet you'll actually like. Imagine that. It gives you the flexibility to get your work done how you want it done, where you want it done, and on whatever device you would like. Igloo is truly building a product meant for 2015, not for something like 1997. Come on, get with it. It's built with an easy-to-use apps like file sharing, calendars, social news feeds, and task management. With Igloo, you don't have to be stuck at your desk to do your work. You can retrieve the latest version of a document from your Wi-Fi connected laptop during a meeting, share a status update from your phone during a conference, or if you're like me, you can upload a picture of your baby for the entire company to enjoy. Whether or not they enjoy that photo, I guess, varies, but I do it. Everything now is mobile and social, so why shouldn't your work be as well? Get your free trial today, right now, by going to igloosoftware.com/CNET. That's CNET. Invite up to 10 of your favorite coworkers. Make sure you do it. Again, head over to igloosoftware.com/CNET. All right, welcome back to the 404 show. It's Upfront week on the 404 show. Why did they don't include us in any of this stuff? Do you guys ever get to like have fun with like a new front or an Upfront or something like that? You ever get involved?
Well, we
in
go
any
and
of it?
cover them. I mean,
Yeah,
like
but like-
when
We
you
all
get a
have
ticket, when you
parties.
get a ticket to go to the event, you get to go to the party. And
Yeah.
so there's
Rub elbows.
sliders, there's
Yeah.
sliders and sushi,
There's
and free booze.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
Sliders and sushi.
did you guys rub elbows with any like big time celebrities where maybe you had like a starstruck moment?
we don't really. I mean, it's hard for us to get really starstruck because we deal with it all the time.
I mean, I'm just
I'm just always with famous people, so come on. No,
Let's
but
be
I mean,
honest.
But you know, there are people that
Yeah.
over the years covering different shows, I've sort of formed. I wouldn't call them friendships or even relationships, but just people you see a lot.
Sure.
So
Interview
I
a
saw
lot,
the
yeah.
Gotham cast, and I've sort of talked to Robin Lord Taylor, who plays Penguin on that show. I've talked to him a few times through the season, so it was good to see him. Ben McKenzie, the star of that show, I covered for years on Southland.
But you know
so
who the best one on that show is?
who's that?
Is he still on it? Donald.
Donald Logue,
Donald
yeah.
Logue,
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great.
He
He's
was
great.
on my favorite show ever that got canceled after one season.
Terriers.
There
Yeah.
it is.
There it is.
I don't even
Great
need to,
show.
like,
It's a great show.
Yeah.
Oh, how good was
It
that?
was so good. I was so
Terriers
depressed.
was Warren's show, right?
No, it
that
was Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, right.
And the guy who wrote Ocean's 11.
Right.
Huh. Love that.
It
Love
was a great show, but it had a kind of a perfect ending.
It did.
It sucks.
It was contained in that
it
one
sucks,
season.
but it was a great show. If you haven't checked it out, it's on Netflix. I
it
believe
is now.
still. So
Okay.
if not, I'm sorry for lying.
And what the hell, Netflix? Like, reboot that show if you're looking for something. So what about you, Robyn? Any celebrities that you're like?
No, I
Hey.
mean, I did these all have red carpets that we tend to not necessarily go to, but I did the CW one just because all their finales are sort of this week and next week, and it's a good place to get the scoop. The Vampire Diaries cast I've been interviewing since season 2.
Big shock.
Yeah,
They see Robyn at the end of the carpet and they're like,
give me.
oh God,
No,
here we go again. They roll their eyes.
No, it works to my advantage because they don't want to, I mean, long story short, their major character just left after 6 years, so it's a big story point.
Which one?
Nina Dobrev, who, used to date Ian. Ian just got married, so they're very nervous about him doing press. But,
sure.
I've been interviewing him now for so many years, so.
You guys hug and you catch up.
We totally hug. I mean, come on.
Catch up.
But no.
Do you hug and like it takes a while to let go? And he's like, okay, someone get.
No, if anything, it's the opposite. He's a little handsy.
Oh, is he
He's
really?
a little handsy. But
Nice.
But he's now a happily married.
He
man.
is a happily married.
Sounds like it.
But like ABC Family was fun because they put up the music as soon as the presentation ends, and you got all the 4 Pretty Little Liars like literally start dancing in the middle of the dance floor, and it took like a couple minutes for the ad salespeople to realize it was them, and then they like beeline for pictures.
Nice.
And so I mean you see that kind of stuff, but we kind of sort of head out really early on.
It wasn't a starstruck moment.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't even there. I watched the presentation on the live stream. But maybe topping Dolly Parton at NBC was the end of ABC's presentation. They brought out Montel Jordan to sing "This Is How We Do It" with rewritten lyrics about ABC.
Oh,
because that was their theme this year.
And
"This Is How We Do It."
All of their cast was on stage, also dancing
I
awkwardly.
wonder how much
too.
he gets for something like that.
I don't know, but it was.
Yeah.
I don't.
He probably does it for free because this is like the biggest promotion he's had in 10, 15
He's like, my
years.
Spotify number's gonna go through the roof.
Again, assuming it wasn't a track, he still had the voice. It was working.
Yeah,
so
fun
I
stuff
don't know.
like that.
Who had the best upfront? Who won? I know, I know it's tough with CBS. But that aside,
I would say based on content, based on the shows that I'm most likely to check out, I'd say ABC had the most shows I'm genuinely interested in.
Okay.
And their all the presentations are slick, and they're in big theaters. They have all these graphics and whatnot. So it just depends. But I think in terms of content, ABC, and again on the comedy side, Fox, NBC, and CBS were kind of they were what they were. But
Right. You share that opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was ABC. I was into a lot of stuff. I was surprised by is it The Family?
The Family,
yeah, we
yeah.
were both, I think, a little bit like, oh, that actually looks really good. So, I mean, yeah, I would say I would probably agree with that.
That's also a mid-season show.
Yeah.
Just a quick hit. It's about a politician whose son goes missing when he's young, and then shows back up when she's about to announce that she's running for governor. But it may not actually be him. It could be some sort of conspiracy. So it looks sort of mysterious and twisty. But Joan Allen stars in that, and she's great. Always has been great. So, that one really intrigued me. That was maybe my favorite trailer I saw the whole time, because I hadn't actually read that script, so I didn't know what to expect. And that trailer, I think, really worked.
How come we can never? I know this will never happen. We can never have a show like Black Mirror be on a broadcast, a U.S. broadcast network. Why can't we have nice things like that?
I don't know. I mean, those Brits, man, they're just weird.
How good is Black Mirror? You like Black Mirror?
I've seen a little bit of it. I need to watch more of it on Netflix. But again, it's on Netflix. I think again, it's going to be.
No, I know.
Go and make your own network.
It's
Jeff.
all been globalized.
Yeah.
We get it. But like, have you watched Black Mirror? You haven't had the pleasure.
I don't know. I don't watch.
There's no vampires in it.
I don't watch.
so-
I don't watch. I'm not into British shows.
There's no
not gonna lie.
It's not even a British show. Just
I
people
don't know.
have British
Doctor Who,
accents.
I don't watch that.
It has nothing to do with
I'm
that.
looking for again. I'm a Mad Men guy. I've been talking
Yeah.
about it a lot. But John Hamm did a couple episodes.
He
the
did.
new
He
season,
did the
so,
Christmas. Oh, there's a new Black Mirror.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe is that one out?
Is that
on
what you're
Netflix?
saying?
I don't know. I know he did some.
He did the Christmas special, which you have to find on your own terms.
Right. But I thought he was doing 2 or 3. Was the Christmas special longer?
It was like an hour and a half.
Oh, okay, so maybe that was it. Maybe
But it was damn good.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
They're
it,
all
so
good.
I'm not. I don't do those alternative methods that you speak of. So
No, it's just that you have to get a real fancy antenna.
yeah.
Real fancy.
hanging out of your apartment,
Exactly.
pointed toward the other side of the Atlantic.
So we got some questions from viewers, and here's one that I don't even know if you have an answer to it, but I'm just gonna lay it out there. A lot of our listeners want to know how to like modify stuff and like do DIY stuff, but do you have like a TV watching like hack that you do? Like, oh, a lot of people don't know this, but you can. I mean, I know it's a very specific and strange sort of thing, but is there anything that like you as professionals in your industry, do you have any like pro tips for people? Because for me, like, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, I mean, this is not a hack at all, but I mean, now I have a Roku, so obviously I can access everything now. And then actually I have a pretty new DVR. It's Time Warner that you can record 4 shows and watch a 5th, which is, has completely
changed everything.
So, I mean, all that stuff is kind of, anyone can do.
We're actually probably the worst people to ask because we get a lot of things.
Yeah, we don't have to watch.
They send a screener, so sometimes I'll watch stuff 3 or 4 weeks before it airs, and so it makes life easier to not have to watch everything the night it's on.
Totally,
yeah.
So my pro tip would be to become a television journalist, and
that's a very specific answer. I like
it's
it.
actually
do
not
it just
a pro
for the screeners.
I don't know. I mean, it's a great job, but there are probably other ways to make money in the world that might be better for you. So I don't know, but. No, they say journalism is dying, but it's not. It's like boxing is here to stay.
Right on. So what about like what's your personal setups like at home? Do you have like a command center? Do you have like a battle station where you like set up shop and
I
go
live
to
in
work?
A studio, so
right,
my
so
bedroom is my home.
Yeah.
No, so again, I just have one big TV. I have my DVR. I have a Roku. Yeah, and that's pretty much. And I have like once in a while, if I have a screener that's only online, like where I have a link to, I'll use my HDMI cord and plug my laptop into my TV, so I can sort of watch it on my big TV. But
so it's not just like I'm picturing this like
it's not that big. I mean,
you don't have like a command center.
No,
you don't like assume the position, you get locked into a chair.
Definitely not. And we have TVs and DVRs in our office
right.
Here as well. So. I mean, I have like 3 screens at my desk here in the office because I have my laptop, my screen, like I do a double screen, and then I have my TV, DVR. So it's a lot of.
What are your like pet peeves when you watch? You have like because for me, if anyone talks to me during a show, I freak out.
Yeah.
Especially something during like Game of Thrones where like every line of dialogue is very critical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. It's my it's just me and my wife, and my command station's just on the couch, and we have a normal sized television. It's not like a giant thing or anything, but she generally, if she's watching something, she's as engaged as I am, so she doesn't talk. I remember very clearly being at my mom's house though. We were visiting for the season 5 finale of Lost, and I just told her up front, I was like, you haven't ever watched this show, you're not going to understand anything that's happening. I was like, so either leave or just don't say a word because you're going to ruin everything. So yeah, that's a big pet peeve. But I think that's normal.
That's
if you don't want to enjoy something, you don't want someone to be talking through it all the time.
Well, it's pretty much why I don't go to the movies anymore.
Yeah.
It's just it.
Yeah.
I will tell tales of theaters to my children.
I know. I almost always go to the Lincoln Center Theater on 68th Street in Broadway because the demographic there is a little bit older,
right?
So generally more respectful.
Well, that's what they say to do.
Yeah,
they say go to like an old time, like a retirement community, and the closest theater to that community. Right. That's where you should go.
Yeah. I found that to be true.
It's remarkable.
Although I did see The Fault in Our Stars for some reason on opening weekend there with a bunch of 13-year-old girls, and that was the worst.
You have to go to the one on 84th and Broadway that I now go to, where you get assigned seats and you can recline all the way back, and you don't have to get there early because you already have your seats. That's right near me.
I want to go to one of those theaters where they like serve a whole meal, like the whole.
The Draft House.
I haven't done that. Yeah,
that's starting to become a thing.
The Alamo Draft House. There's a bunch of them.
That's distracting.
It depends. You have to go into it.
Like when the mozzarella sticks come, I'm not going to be paying attention.
I always wonder how the waitress finds
get there early enough to get your order in.
That's tough, man.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make like a 5-hour excursion, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to eat through the whole movie, or else I'd be rolling out of there.
Just a little snack. It needs to be like vacuum tubed to you, so you just sort of like have it and open it up in your lap. This has been great. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Where can we follow you on the internet?
Robyn Ross TVG
on Twitter.
Is Twitter.
Okay, fantastic.
And I also am on Twitter at Adam _Bryant.
Okay, not to be confused with any Times writer.
The New York Times writer. That's not me.
Okay, fair enough. Again, thank you so much. You'll come back soon?
Yeah,
Of course.
definitely.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. That'll do it for us. 866-404-CNET's the phone number. Shoot me an email, the404@cnet.com. And of course, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. We're back here next week with a brand new show. Until then, have a fantastic weekend. I'm Jeff Bacalar. You
Adam
are
Bryant.
And you.
Robyn Ross.
Thank you so much for listening, you guys. We'll see you very soon. Have a good one. Once again, big shout out to Igloo for sponsoring the episode you just heard. Igloo is an intranet you'll actually like. It gives you the flexibility to get your work done the way you want it done, where you want it done, and on whatever device you would like. It's built with easy-to-use apps like file sharing, calendars, social news feeds, and task management. Don't forget, get your free trial today. Head over to igloosoftware.com/CNET. Invite up to 10 of your favorite coworkers. Go to igloosoftware.com/CNET. That's CNET, CNET. Big thanks to Igloo.